Okay, so episode 2 of season 2 of Fallout on Prime dropped a lot of stuff about the Brotherhood, and people who haven't played maybe the earlier games, and definitely people who haven't played the games at all, are probably not going to have a clue what was going on. Needless to say, this little video is going to contain spoilers, so if you haven't watched episode 2 and you're intending to, probably skip this. Okay, for anyone still here, we have our sarsaparilla, we have Cleo. Let's get into it. First thing that was really, really crucial in this episode, I find, is understanding Brotherhood hierarchy. Now, you've probably heard knights, paladins, and other things, squires, being thrown around in the Brotherhood of Steel, and don't really know what it means. Like, some stuff, it's kind of obvious, like squires are really low down, knights are a thing above. Well, then you have paladins, and paladins are higher than knights, so higher ranking. And then at the very top of the pyramid, the ones who are controlling the chapter are what are called the elders. So from the episode, you may remember this group of people, okay? These guys are what I assume, elders of each of the chapters in the Brotherhood of Steel. Now, one thing I really liked that they did was that they resolved a bit of a discrepancy and a bit of a question among fans and theorists of the Brotherhood of Steel of how exactly the chapters worked, because in the East Coast, they do things a certain way. In the old games, they do things a certain way. And there's discrepancies and differences between it. So I really like that they established that each chapter is kind of governed in its own way, kind of giving that like separation, but having an overall council making all the overall decisions, right?
Quintus called for this meeting. He didn't tell the common. He's breaking chain of command. Max, the Commonwealth isn't going to let him seize power without a war.
So this scene with Dane is really interesting, and the Elders Council that we see meeting after this scene, they confirm that they are breaking the chain of command, right? So that to me was like very important because it tells me something about the ending of Fallout 4. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video, the ending of Fallout 4 is really interesting because regardless of what ending you pick, if you choose to destroy the Brotherhood, Elder Maxon, who is in charge of the Commonwealth chapter, will survive, right? And this is important. So while the elders are the highest chain of command in the Brotherhood of Steel, they have the say over their chapters and they meet in the council to discuss like the future of the Brotherhood, etc., etc. There is technically one rank that is higher than the Elders Council, and that is the High Elder. Now, on paper, the High Elder does have the same governance and power as regular elders, with one caveat. If there's like a disagreement between elders and, there's like a tie vote, for example, the High Elder's say will be what, decides the matter. And it seems that they have a bit more general authority. Now, why does this tell you a lot about Fallout 4? Historically, every single High Elder since the formation of the Brotherhood when the Great War happened has been a Maxon descendant. Now, this is where the Maxon bloodline and the royalty property aspect in Brotherhood hierarchy comes into play. You go back to the very first Maxon, Roger Maxon, the founder of the Brotherhood, the prophet of the Brotherhood. He was the very first High Elder. His son, Maxon II, succeeded him, and every single High Elder of the Brotherhood of Steel has been of the Maxon line. Now, as of Fallout 4, the Maxon line is ending with Arthur Maxon, right? So I'm not going to go into the whole sort of history of Maxon and all the rest of it. We can, but it's not relevant for now. The relevance here is that as far as any of the gameplay is known in the Fallout timeline, Arthur Maxon was the last reigning Maxon. Therefore, he is the one that would be taking over, historically, the High Elder role. So when the Elders Council, while planning this coup and planning this civil war and this takeover of the Brotherhood ways, they are, from what I understand, trying to usurp and go behind High Elder Maxon's back. And this is where the introduction of Paladin Harkness is really interesting, because Paladin Harkness is clearly a high-up member of the Brotherhood of Steel back east in the Commonwealth, okay? And if they're breaking the hierarchy by going against the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth are the primary power who house Maxon, his laws, his ways of running the Brotherhood, and also are the biggest power in the Brotherhood. And this council of elders in the West Coast is going against key Brotherhood doctrine too. In Fallout New Vegas, and I believe in Fallout 76, there's a part of the Codex, I think it's the Codex, that is mentioned called the chain that binds. And this is very strict authority in the Brotherhood. It basically governs the hierarchy, and it instructs how the ranks of the Brotherhood are meant to interact. So the chain that binds reads, "The chain that binds is the cornerstone of our organization, the rock that supports the great tree of the Brotherhood and its myriad branches. It holds that 1. Orders are to flow from on high down through the ranks. An order from a superior must always be obeyed, that their wisdom may be carried out without hesitation. Orders are to observe the flow and not skip ranks. A superior may only give orders to his direct subordinates and not to those beneath them. In this way, harmony of intent and cohesion of thought is maintained." So the chain that binds is meant to create the order in the Brotherhood, okay? So like the Brotherhood, like they view their hierarchy as being like links. So you have elders can only sort of command paladins, and then you have paladins who command knights, and then you have knights who command squires. And I think that's the way that it works, as the chain of command would say. But the interesting thing about the chains that bind is that if you subvert it or go against it, then it is like a big no-no. It usually results of those committing the offense to be demoted or even stripped of their title. So an in-game example we'd see of this would be with the New Vegas Brotherhood of Steel, with that paladin who tries to usurp Elder McNamara. So I find it interesting that whoever is elder back in the Commonwealth, which I think it's Maxon, I think it's High Elder Maxon, and it's interesting that he would send his paladin to a Council of Elders meeting. And, you know, I don't exactly see it as a silly thing. They're aware of a civil war. If he is the last Maxon, assuming at 30 years old he hasn't produced any children, or if he has, he may not want to leave them in the Commonwealth while he comes and deals with the elder issues. But he knows that these other elders want to take over and go against his command. So I'm just really curious what they're going to do with existing Brotherhood law and all this stuff that they're introducing with a civil war. And again, that breaking the chain of command, that thing, and how the Commonwealth are basically in charge, and like to the point they even know about the civil war. Because again, like in Brotherhood law, the Brotherhood's like soldiers are so loyal to the Maxons. Like it hasn't been established in the show yet, but historically the Maxons are the royals of the Brotherhood of Steel, and they have a lot of support, especially from those born within Brotherhood ranks. And the reason I think that we haven't seen much of this in the show, or it hasn't been addressed as much, is because we are seeing a chapter of the Brotherhood that basically took on the remnants of the blown up NCR, right? So as much as they're being taught in the Brotherhood ways, they haven't been raised in the Brotherhood in the same way that generations of other soldiers have. Because traditionally, the Brotherhood of Steel are very isolationist. They keep their ranks within ranks, which is how these hierarchies and the Codex has been maintained over such a long period of time, like 200 years. So yeah, this was just like my little spitballing thoughts on what we saw last episode. I've been recreating Paladin Harkness for the last 2 days. And yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. So I thought I'd chat a little bit about it for anyone who's interested. Yeah, I'm just super curious where they go with this. Like, it's been a wild ride. I was writing so many notes last episode and I can't wait for tomorrow.